The studio lights burned bright, casting long shadows across the polished set of ABCs. The air was thick with a tension that crackled like electricity before a storm. Florence Pugh sat rigidly in her chair, her usual calm replaced by a steely resolve. Across the table, Sonny Hostin's eyes narrowed, fingers tapping rhythmically on the glossy surface. What was supposed to be a routine discussion on political polarization in Hollywood was unraveling before millions of live viewers. Florence leaned forward, voice steady but sharp. This isn't just entertainment anymore. It's a stage where truth is traded for performance, and that needs to stop. Sonny's gaze hardened. This platform isn't for celebrity tantrums. It's for voices earned through struggle, through real-life battles. The room seemed to hold its breath. A gasp escaped from somewhere off camera, a ghost of Meghan McCain's lingering presence felt in the silence. Joy Behar attempted to ease the rising tension, but Florence was already standing fiery, unyielding, a woman unwilling to bow to the machinery she challenged. Cameras caught every moment, every flicker of defiance, every subtle shift in posture. Then, abruptly, ABC cut to commercial. By midday, social media was ablaze. Hashtags like Hostin and The View Meltdown dominated timelines, sparking fierce debate and divided loyalties. No one, neither the viewers, the hosts, nor Florence herself, could predict the fallout. The fissure had ripped open a deeper question. What happens when women in power clash over truth, responsibility, and the right to be heard? This was not just a daytime TV spectacle. It was an ideological reckoning, broadcast live, demanding attention from a nation grappling with its own divisions. Florence's words had ignited a spark, but beneath the surface simmered a far more complex battle. It wasn't simply about two women exchanging sharp retorts. It was a collision of identities, histories, and deeply entrenched ideologies. "I'm tired of Hollywood's hollow progress," Florence said, voice unwavering. "If you profit from people's pain, if you use activism as a marketing tool, then we all lose." Sonny's reply was measured but pointed. "So now you're the judge. You hold a mirror up to this table and expect us to see only your reflection." The exchange cut through the veneer of civility. Florence had arrived on the set carrying the weight of recent viral criticisms aimed at entertainment media's complacency, accusations that The View itself had tried to navigate delicately. Instead of clarification, she found herself thrust into a storm. Sonny, a former federal prosecutor with decades of courtroom experience, countered with precision. "This isn't just talk show chatter, it's lived experience. It's responsibility. I risk my career speaking truth." Florence fired back. "You weaponize your authority to silence." Their words echoed beyond personal grievance. This was a structural clash, a moment where race, gender, and power intersected, and where the nation's fraught conversations about media, identity, and truth played out in real time. The audience watched, divided, caught between sympathy, discomfort, and fascination. Who held the moral high ground? Was this a necessary confrontation or a reckless breakdown? The questions lingered like smoke in the air, setting the stage for the battle to come. As the segment ended and the cameras cut away, the polished calm of the View's studio gave way to a frantic storm behind the scenes. Producers whispered urgently into headsets. PR teams scrambled to craft statements before the public could digest the unfolding chaos. The executives' conference room was tense. Clips of Florence's incendiary remarks looped on muted screens as legal advisors weighed the fallout. Had she just called out Disney on its own network? Was this a journalistic breakthrough or a corporate nightmare? Inside the production control room, staffers debated. Should they air the uncut footage on the West Coast, or pull it all together to contain damage? A producer muttered, "This could either destroy us or make us viral overnight." Sonny remained steadfast, insisting the full conversation needed to be shared. "People deserve the unvarnished truth," she declared, her voice firm despite the tension. But ABC's lawyers advised caution, caution that felt like a cage. They feared advertiser backlash, shareholder unrest, and the unpredictable backlash of social media. The network was at a crossroads between embracing raw, uncomfortable dialogue or sanitizing the moment to preserve its brand. The View's set had transformed from a talk show stage into a battleground, where power, image, and truth collided with relentless force. Outside the studio, the public's reaction was already brewing, a storm about to break beyond the walls of corporate control. The moment the segment aired, the digital world erupted. Social media feeds flooded with clips, reactions, and heated debates. Twitter became a battlefield where supporters of Florence hailed her as a fearless truth-teller, while Sunny's defenders praised her steadiness and journalistic rigor. Activists shared Florence's words as a rallying cry, calling her the only celebrity who speaks without a filter. Conservative commentators seized the opportunity to paint her as an entitled guest who bit the hand that fed her. Meanwhile, voices from the black community grappled with complexity. Some applauded Sunny's poised rebuttals as a demonstration of earned authority. Others questioned if The View was silencing one of the few white allies willing to challenge the status quo. Petitions circulated online, some demanding Florence's permanent ban, others calling for an apology from Sunny. Op-eds in major outlets dissected every angle, exposing fault lines across race, gender, and media responsibility. This chapter of the saga wasn't just about a spat on daytime television. It had become a cultural flashpoint, revealing deep fissures in America's ongoing battle over who gets to speak, who gets heard, and at what cost. In this cacophony of voices, the debate over truth and power roared louder than ever. Days after the firestorm, Florence broke her silence in a candid Instagram video that felt less like a statement and more like a manifesto. Filmed in the intimate setting of her kitchen, away from the glare of studio lights, her voice was steady, raw, and unyielding. "I was invited here to speak," she began, eyes locked on the camera, "not to obey a script or to perform for comfort." She recounted moments when her microphone was cut mid-sentence, when Sunny interrupted her points before they could land. Her words struck a nerve. If women can't disagree without being dismissed as difficult, then what progress are we really making? Florence didn't plead for understanding, she demanded it. Her video went viral overnight. The hashtag silenced on set trended globally, echoing across platforms. Celebrities and activists shared the clip, framing it as a moment of resistance against a system that preferred polished consensus over uncomfortable truth. This was no retreat. It was a declaration, a woman refusing to be muted, rewriting the rules of engagement on her own terms. But on the other side, Sunny Hostin's response was already brewing, poised to land like a gavel in the unfolding courtroom of public opinion. The following morning, Sunny Hostin addressed the controversy with a calm intensity that resonated through the studio's familiar set. Without naming Florence directly, her words cut deep, each syllable deliberate, measured. "This table is earned," she began, voice steady but charged. "It's not a film set where rehearsals and retakes soften the edges. This is a battlefield where lives are at stake, and every word carries weight." She spoke of the relentless scrutiny she endured, the death threats, the constant policing of black women's voices in public spaces. "We are not angry," she said. "We are aware of the histories that shape our discourse and the responsibilities that come with this platform." Her tone was resolute, a quiet assertion of authority forged from years of experience. As a federal prosecutor and media analyst, the audience applauded, some relieved by her steadiness, others unsettled by the undercurrent of dismissal toward Florence's critique. Was this a deflection, a refusal to engage with Florence's truth, or was it a lesson in discipline, the hard reality of wielding power in a world that demands perfection? The clash had moved beyond personalities. It was now a profound lesson in how women, especially women of color, navigate power, pain, and public expectation in a nation still grappling with its fractured soul. As the tension spilled beyond the cameras, the quiet hum of legal strategy rose sharply behind the scenes. Florence's representatives, alarmed by what they saw as defamation and hostile treatment, filed formal complaints alleging unsafe workplace conditions and silencing tactics. ABC responded by launching an internal review, attempting to navigate the minefield between protecting their star-studded panel and containing public backlash. Media watchdogs and advocacy groups soon took notice, releasing statements demanding transparency and respect for free speech. Florence didn't plead for understanding, she demanded it. Her video went viral overnight. The hashtag silenced on set trended globally, echoing across platforms. Celebrities and activists shared the clip, framing it as a moment of resistance against a system that preferred polished consensus over uncomfortable truth. This was no retreat. It was a declaration, a woman refusing to be muted, rewriting the rules of engagement on her own terms. But on the other side, Sunny Hostin's response was already brewing, poised to land like a gavel in the unfolding courtroom of public opinion. The following morning, Sunny Hostin addressed the controversy with a calm intensity that resonated through the studio's familiar set. Without naming Florence directly, her words cut deep, each syllable deliberate, measured. "This table is earned," she began, voice steady but charged. It's not a film set where rehearsals and retakes soften the edges. This is a battlefield where lives are at stake, and every word carries weight. She spoke of the relentless scrutiny she endured, the death threats, the constant policing of black women's voices in public spaces. "We are not angry," she said. "We are aware of the histories that shape our discourse and the responsibilities that come with this platform." Her tone was resolute, a quiet assertion of authority forged from years of experience. As a federal prosecutor and media analyst, the audience applauded, some relieved by her steadiness, others unsettled by the undercurrent of dismissal toward Florence's critique. Was this a deflection, a refusal to engage with Florence's truth? Or was it a lesson in discipline, the hard reality of wielding power in a world that demands perfection? The clash had moved beyond personalities. It was now a profound lesson in how women, especially women of color, navigate power, pain, and public expectation in a nation still grappling with its fractured soul. As the tension spilled beyond the cameras, the quiet hum of legal strategy rose sharply behind the scenes. Florence's representatives, alarmed by what they saw as defamation and hostile treatment, filed formal complaints alleging unsafe workplace conditions and silencing tactics. ABC responded by launching an internal review, attempting to navigate the minefield between protecting their star-studded panel and containing public backlash. Media watchdogs and advocacy groups soon took notice, releasing statements demanding transparency and respect for free speech. This was no longer just a media dispute. It had become a case study in corporate accountability and the limits of dissent within a powerful institution. The View, a show long touted as a platform for diverse voices, was now Exhibit A in a trial over who gets to speak and who gets shut down. The stakes were immense. Personal reputations, professional futures, and the broader narrative of media responsibility hung in the balance. Behind closed doors, the network faced an impossible question. Could it survive the fallout without sacrificing the women who had brought it both fame and controversy? The courtroom of public opinion was open, and the verdict had yet to be written. As the debate raged on, the feminist discourse fractured into opposing camps. On one side stood voices accusing Florence of embodying a white savior, complex dominating, a table meant to amplify marginalized perspectives. On the other, defenders hailed her courage for challenging the gatekeepers of cultural dialogue. Cable news panels buzzed with experts dissecting every phrase, as if passing legal documents. Some argued Sonny's years of hard-won credibility earned her a seat no outsider could easily claim. Others pointed to Florence's emotional candor as a refreshing break from polished, politically safe rhetoric. That divide wasn't tidy or simple. It exposed the uncomfortable truth that feminism itself is layered with contradictions between race, experience, and power. The public watched, riveted and unsettled, as two women became avatars for a nation's tangled identity struggles. In a world obsessed with curated perfection, these raw, unfiltered exchanges were both a revelation and a risk. They challenged viewers to confront not just who was right, but how society negotiates dissent among women who refuse to be silenced. In response, ABC issued a carefully worded statement, affirming its commitment to diverse voices and rigorous debate. Yet, beneath the polished language lay a stark reality. Florence was quietly removed from the lineup. Her future appearances cancelled without public explanation. No apology was offered. No direct acknowledgement of the conflict's depth. Just a corporate silence that spoke louder than words. Florence's team denounced this as performative neutrality, a shield to protect the brand while sacrificing the very woman who dared disrupt the narrative. Meanwhile, Sonny remained publicly silent on the network's decision, but her first segment back opened with a cryptic remark. Sometimes, silence is a statement. Millions tuned in, interpreting the line as a final word or perhaps a challenge. ABC had drawn a line in the sand, preserving the brand at all costs, even if it meant muting its own stars and the truth they fought to reveal. 2 weeks after the turmoil, Florence sat down with Christian Amanpour for an exclusive, unfiltered interview that captivated millions. In the quiet of the studio, far from the chaos of The View, she recounted the ordeal with a mix of vulnerability and steely resolve. Her voice wavered as she described how her microphone was cut, how every attempt to speak was met with interruption. She shared data on how women, especially outspoken ones, are often silenced or dismissed in public discourse. When Amanpour asked, "Would you do it again?" Florence didn't hesitate. Every time. Because silence is comfort, and comfort isn't progress. The interview spread like wildfire, viewed over 20 million times. It was more than a comeback. It was a closing argument, a plea for authenticity, for the right to disrupt, for the courage to speak without permission. For many, Florence became a symbol of resistance, a beacon for those who felt their voices were stifled by the very platforms meant to amplify them. The narrative had shifted, and there was no turning back. Weeks later, Sunny Hostin reflected on the clash in the pages of her memoir, offering a measured perspective that neither demonized nor dismissed Florence. She described Florence as a woman of fierce conviction, unafraid to challenge the status quo. But Sunny also warned, conviction without context can become a weapon. She detailed the mental and emotional toll the confrontation took on her, revealing the unseen burdens carried by women in the public eye, especially women of color. Yet despite the pain, Sunny ended on a note of resilience. We disagree, but we show up, because that's how change begins. Her words underscored a complex truth, that in the arena of public discourse, power and vulnerability coexist in delicate balance. Two women, each wielding their truth, became unlikely mirrors, reflecting a nation's fractured soul. The cameras kept rolling. The story wasn't over, it had only deepened.